Frank Castle returns with his war against the crime family in the Marvel special presentation, The Punisher, One Last Kill.
Yeah, so this was an interesting one that they announced because it kind of got known that he wasn't going to be in Daredevil Born Again Season 2, but he was going to do the special presentation that Jon Bernthal helped write and set up and stuff. It's only, 51 minutes long, so it's not something that's
with credits,
too terribly long. And that's with credits, maybe 47, 48 minutes without the credits and stuff. But it's a really interesting special because in a way it felt like the second to last episode of another Punisher series instead of like a standalone little show. Like it felt like this has felt like me watching an episode of the Netflix Punisher and going through that. I will say I really enjoyed it because we've talked about how much we love Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock in Daredevil and Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin, but Jon Bernthal as Punisher is also another picture-perfect casting. Amazing. He gets that darkness and that grit and the heaviness of this character because it is such a heavy layered character of a guy who had his entire family murdered in front of him, and he's not really a superhero. He's a guy who's out for revenge. And you get, which I really love that they did in this, was not shying away from the mental health aspect, the trauma, the heartache, the darkness that is Frank Castle. Because you're dealing with him. This is supposed to be kind of right after the events of Daredevil Born Again Season 2 and before Spider-Man Brand New Day. It's supposed to be bridging the gap between those two. I don't think it really does that much. Like, we can get into it more. Like, it didn't really feel like it was a setup to anything. It felt like its own self-contained thing, which was good, but also bad in a way of it just felt really disconnected from anything. But this was really phenomenal for just simply Jon Bernthal's performance as Frank Castle.
Yeah, I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit there because I think it does fully bridge the gap to Spider-Man. I really think it does, and I'll tell you why. Because you do have, like, this whole story is around Frank kind of reconciling with his trauma, dealing with it. He sees the images of all these people, his wife, his kid. You get a kind of an appearance of Karen in this at some point. Like, all of the people that mean something to him kind of are like floating around in his head, and he's hearing things, and he's very much mentally not all there. Like, you can clearly see that he's dealt with so much trauma and so much, death and violence and just awful things that have happened to him. Like, you see him, obviously at the grave of his daughter, talking to her and having the conversations with her. And it's just an incredibly powerful stuff where he's, seeing things and he's losing his mind, basically. But you still have that rage, and it's kind of playing with, okay, what's going to motivate Frank now? Like, that's kind of where we're at with Frank. And, you get the introduction of the Nucci family here, where, you have... Frank, the area of the city that he's in is just completely overrun with crime and, just bad things going on around him, and he just can't be bothered with any of it currently. Like, you see a little bit of that Frank Castle in there, but you're wondering, like, okay, all this stuff's going on around him. What's going to snap him back into being the Punisher? Like, what's going to get him back into it? And what you have is him, trying to walk back to his apartment, and he gets confronted by Ma Nucci, who is played by the wonderful Judith Light, which awesome to see her in, like, an MCU property. She plays this, she's in a wheelchair. She's got this vendetta against Frank because Frank killed the rest of her family, this Nucci crime family that is very much akin, I would say, to the Falcones, or one of those, if you're doing a DC parallel here, but that type of crime family that, Frank's wiped out everybody else, and you get the shots of him, she's going through, like, you killed this person and this person and this person. You see all the instances of Frank just brutalizing these members of this crime family, and the only one that he didn't kill was Ma Nucci. And Ma Nucci's like, well, now, to get revenge for my family, I've put a bounty on your head that starts in, X number of minutes, and you're going to have every bad guy from here to whatever that is going to be coming for you, and you're going to die because I put this bounty on your head. And he's still kind of dealing with his inner demons here, and eventually gets to the point where you get him to snap back into it. And long story short, by the end of the episode, you get him kind of in a good place, at least a good enough place where he feels a little bit more at peace, that he can fully embrace being the vigilante, the Punisher, like the anti-hero, because you get the iconic shot of him in his gear that you see in the Spider-Man trailer. So you get him back to, he's not this broken, he's still the Punisher, but he's Frank right now. And you get finally by the end him full bore Punisher back, ready to, kick butt and take names. And I think that's the version of him that you're going to see in Spider-Man. Hopefully. That's kind of where I think they've done with it. So I don't necessarily agree that it completely bridged it, but it didn't beat you over the head with it either. It was really subtle how you can kind of connect.
Basically the last 5 minutes. Yeah. That's what I was saying. Like, it didn't really connect to it. It got him back as Punisher.
Yeah.
But that was about it. That connects it to Spider-Man. It's just him becoming Punisher again. But that also shows a little bit of a disconnect with this, is because with Daredevil Born Again Season 2, we got no mention of Frank. Like, again, Season 1, the very end, he's in a cage. We know he's kind of not been fully Punisher. He gets some sequences with Matt in there as Punisher and fighting and stuff. And then he's thrown in a cage, and you get the bonus credit scene that he looks like he's getting himself out of that. But there's no mention of him in Season 2 at all. And then when we get here, it's a very different Frank. This is more the Netflix Frank instead of the Born Again Frank that we've seen. So there's a little bit of disconnect of how did we get from him in a cage in Season 1 to where he is in One Last Kill, and then how we built him back up to be Punisher. It was a very loose connection. Say, all right, this is how he's going to be Punisher, and that. Well, he's still kind of been basically the Punisher. So there wasn't a full tie to either Born Again or Spider-Man Brand New Day.
I think your argument should be more that it doesn't connect to Daredevil, really, than it does connecting to...
Well, I mean, as you're saying for Spider-Man, the only connection is that he's back in his Punisher outfit.
Sure.
There's no mention of Peter Parker or anybody in his world.
I get it.
There's no connection to the story or the world of Peter. You've brought him into a new part of the city, and you're getting him back in his gear. That's the only thing that's setting up that he's in a different area from Daredevil, so maybe he runs into Spider-Man. Now, that's the only thing that I'm getting at. It's very loose to be able to connect where we end this special, which was a good special, but when they hype it up as being a gap bridge between Daredevil and Spider-Man, it really isn't. As I said, to me, it felt like the second to last episode of a new season of The Punisher.
Yeah. I would say the loosest connection you could make to Daredevil is the fact that he has a vision of Karen Page.
Yeah, that's basically the only connection to Daredevil.
That's kind of the only way that it really connects here. But I do love that they sat in his mind throughout this. And it's just dealing with a man who's broken beyond what most mere regular people would be able to handle. Like just all the unbelievable amount of trauma and violence and death that he's just been around. A lot of it's his own doing. Mm-hmm. But, obviously the tragic event that happened with his wife and his daughter, that, the stuff. And I love some of the throwbacks to, his, talking to himself like, one badge, two badge, penny and dime kind of thing.
I love that when he's having the flashback, and not to interrupt you, but when he's at the grave and he puts a pistol to his head, he's ready to end it all. And he has those flashbacks of his daughter and stuff. And his daughter in the bed is holding a book, and it's one batch, two batch. I'm like, that's the right connection you needed to do there. She couldn't be holding any other book but that one. And I just love that connection of those just little nods of him throughout. That was great.
It was so good to kind of snap him out of it a little bit, to get him back to the place that he needed to be the Punisher, right? And it was so well done. My biggest gripe was that it was so short. I wanted it to be like another 30, 40 minutes.
It should have been feature-length film.
It could have been, and it should have been, because my biggest complaint about it is it felt rushed. Mm-hmm. Like it did. For being a 45, 48 minute, if you count just the runtime of the actual events of the story, like 45 to 48 minutes is about what we got out of this. It just felt so short because there have been episodes of the Punisher series that were longer than
I say this is about the same length
Right.
as a Daredevil Born Again
Right.
season episode or a Punisher
it felt
episode.
like it could have been like a good 90-minute special, like a little bit elongated, let him really dive into the motivations of Manucci here, maybe have him show him killing them at the beginning and just doing all of that stuff and just dealing with the reckoning of that. And that part of it did kind of feel a little bit stunted and rushed, but the performance of Jon Bernthal in this is just absolutely S tier, fantastic. I do put him up there as like perfect casting, and it's no offense to anybody, Thomas Zane, anybody that played Punisher before. Like Jon Bernthal is the freaking Punisher. He is Frank Castle. He is so good in this role and just getting into that mindset because he's got a face that breathes intensity. You just feel the intensity. Like he does so much acting without speaking in a lot of cases because you see it on his face and his eyes and his mannerisms, the way he carries himself. You just feel that intensity from him, and he does such a good job at conveying that emotion without doing too much, without overacting, without going too intense. Like he's so freaking good at that, and he channels that so well that it's just perfect casting again. Like you get him back in his element here, and when you get that, time's up, it's time for your bounty to kick in, and you just get him going full bore once he snaps back into
into Punisher,
and he's just on, and it's brutal, and it's awful, and it's violent, it's dark, and you just get this insane like 15 to 20 minutes of just nonstop, can't catch your breath action as Frank, and it's just one of the more impressively done violent type of scenes that I can recall seeing in a long time. Like it's
so many different weapons used, and
incredibly well done. Different guns, different things, silliness with the drop off the building aside that the internet's poking fun at a little bit.
That did look rough. Like it did look like it was bad CGI, but they said the only thing they did was swap his face. And but I think I think the problem with it was just how overly dramatic the body flailing was. Yeah. Just made it look even like some people saying it looked like an Uncharted back on the PS3, and like I kind of get that. Sure. It did look a little rough, but Jon Bernthal did a mass majority of his stunts in here. They set him on fire. Yeah, as he did a scene. He jumped off that building. He didn't do the landing, but he did the beginning part of it. Like he wanted to do as much as he possibly could do as Frank here.
And I love that because that's how dedicated he is to this role. Like they legitimately tried to talk him out of setting himself on fire. Like, we'll have a stuntman do this. And he literally was like, no, I want to feel Frank's rage and his mindset in that moment. Set me on fire so I can feel that intensity, that urge. And it's so well. I'm glad it was safe and he's okay and it was handled safely, but like just incredibly well done because there's legitimately like a good 20-30 seconds of him fighting on fire, which was just nuts and awesome. But that's just how talented Jon Bernthal is, man. God, I love everything he does, but he just embodies Frank Castle to me. Like it's that action sequence was just, it was fun. It was fun. It was brutal, dark, violent, fun. Like I just kicked back with a big smile on my face. I'm like, just burn through them all because I know you're gonna. Let's just see how crazy it gets, and it gets just absolutely insane and just a joy to watch.
And you said the brilliance of Jon Bernthal is just how he can convey things without fully doing a whole lot. Because there is a sequence in here where he's sitting in his empty apartment with the shirt off and drinking, and he's having conversation, which he thinks with himself, and then you see different people pop up, and he's cutting himself, and it was such dark, intense, where he's just mumbling and stuff, but you can see the trauma, you can feel where his mental health is breaking down. You can just, that sequence was just like so powerful because you could just see through Jon's body, the way he was talking, the eyes, just, and it was a subtleness to it. But he was just so powerful in that. And then you get him at the grave where he's talking to his daughter and he's just going on. And then you get where you can feel that weight of like, I don't really want to go on anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be Frank. I don't want to be the Punisher. I don't want to be anything.
Yeah.
And you get him going through seeing his daughter and his wife and his son and seeing everybody again and having to relive the trauma of their deaths and everything else. And it was just, yeah, Jon is such a powerful, masterful actor with when he gets to do this stuff, like doing the gritty darkness of, like I said, I'm so glad they didn't shy away from, because I mean, his appearances through Daredevil and stuff, you didn't go into the trauma. You're just getting Punisher, who's there to help kill bad guys and do stuff. I'm glad they went back and showed you that this is such a tortured, hard character, that he's just had such a horrific thing happen to him, and he's still battling those demons all this time later, that he just can't. He hasn't found a way to cope, and you get that, you know, towards the end in here, that's more of just reshaping him a little bit in the way of maybe giving us a different look at the Punisher. But yeah, I agree with you that this should have been longer because I wanted more. It was so good for what it was, but it either needed to be a feature-length almost film, or should have been an episode in another season of the Punisher and gave us a whole season around it, because it did feel like Judith Light was great as Ma and bringing her in there, but it does kind of end like, well, this is a one-off special presentation. You've clearly set up, is she going to be part of Spider-Man? Does she have anything else? And if she's not, then it's like, what were you setting up here? Because you definitely have more to do with her and that character, that maybe we do get another Punisher season or something out of it, like we have with Daredevil. I would love to see another Punisher season, but that's kind of the problem of where I'm mixed on this, because it does have that loose to no connection to Daredevil other than Karen Page showing up. You have a very loose to no connection to Brand New Day that we know he's in, other than we get him reestablished as a Punisher, but he's still very dark and violent and killing people in there. There's even a sequence that everyone's talking about past the falling off the roof, is the killing of an animal in the beginning, which there's some behind the scenes which makes it even, I don't want to laugh at that, but have you seen the behind the scenes of how they did that sequence? Yeah. Jon Bernthal has the stuffed animal dog holding on to it as the actor is pretending that he has it and is throwing it, and Jon throws him the dog for him to throw, and it's just like, you got the Punisher being complicit in this act here, and because it's funny of how this episode or this special presentation ends, because that guy gets his comeuppance, but it's like, if you see the behind the scenes, Frank was responsible for that happening.
Very, very silly moment, but within the context of the story, like he's finally, like, it feels like he's finally at a good place to move forward as the Punisher. Like, he sees that his work's not done. There's still evil in the world, that he can do it, and he's the guy that will put the hard stop rather than, let them face justice. He's got his own brand of justice to deal out, and I got a big smile on my face when you get to the end and he walks out and you see it's him, and he's cleaned himself up. He's got the full Punisher get up on, like the full all black, and I'm like, yes. Now he's dealt with his demons here. He's in a good place. He's in a better place. I don't know if he's necessarily ever going to be. I wouldn't
say it a good place.
Never in a good place, but a good place for this character to give me the freaking Punisher as the Punisher. Now let's go and let's, ride with that and let's see what happens. I would love for it to, even if you don't want to commit, 8 episodes to a season, give us like a 4-episode run story with this, and let him go and tell another story with him that lets him be the brutal, violent version of himself that you're not going to get on film, because he's not going to get that in Spider-Man. Like, spoiler alert for anybody hoping to see it. You're not going to get this level of violence and rage, and even like them poking fun of the fact that he can't really curse in the movie.
I love how they did that of Spider-Man webbing his mouth when he goes to curse.
Yeah, like I get that, and that's all good and fun and well and done, and there's an avenue for him to do that on the big screen like that, and I'm glad that he's getting that opportunity too. But if you really want to go and do the dark, gritty stuff and let him be full on more vigilante anti-hero Punisher that we know and love and that he could be. I would love to see them move that forward with something more for him to really sink his teeth into. If he's willing to do that and they want to give it that creative space to do it, I'd be all for it.
Yeah, this more than anything had me craving for another, because we got 2 seasons of the Punisher show on Netflix.
Correct.
This had me craving for a 3rd season. Like I said, it more than anything to me felt like an episode of a Punisher season that just doesn't exist. We just got this snapshot of that. You could potentially go back and maybe do a few episodes before and have this be an episode, and then do a final episode where you have a confrontation with Monucci, because I'm still trying to figure out, it's called Punisher One Last Kill, but he didn't really do any one last kill in this. That was just him killing off some of his trauma, and maybe it's supposed to be a metaphor and rhetorical and other stuff like that, but there wasn't one last kill in here. If you're taking it for literal, Punisher killing somebody, it really wasn't, because there was one person left of this family and they got to get away. So I probably get, because it's, well, he is trying to kill that final person of this crime family and then he's done, and then he's kind of done what he feels like he needs to do, but he doesn't get that one last kill. And I believe that's supposed to be it. But when I think more about it, like, yeah, really, what was the point of that title there? It's like, I loved it so much, I just wanted more of it, and potentially as either a movie or a series instead of just this one shot, because it just felt like it didn't connect to Daredevil, it didn't connect to Spider-Man in a way. It just felt like this was a standalone new season of Punisher, but it's only one episode.
Yeah, and we'll see where they go with him creatively. Like, I don't know what the future of this character holds outside of his appearance in Brand New Day. Obviously, we're hoping he'll show up in Daredevil Born Again Season 3 as, more of that stuff is happening. Hopefully he gets to have some involvement in that. We'll see what the future of Frank Castle looks like. We'll see where he's out lurking.
Could we get him in the Avengers?
Could we? We could. You never know. I'd love to see it, but we'll see what we get. I'm excited for what the future of that character holds. If it's going to move creatively past that, give us more Punisher. We want it. We want to see more stuff from him and give him that outlet to do it. We'll see if he fits into the plans of what they want to do or not. But I was very satisfied with this standalone special in the sense that we got something really cool out of it, even if it was kind of loosely connected to things and not as strongly as we would have liked.
What would have been really fun, and I don't know, my mind's going off on a tangent here after mentioning Avengers, what would be really fun for fans is to see him show up in Secret Wars, but he gets War Machine's armor and gets to punch it out like he has. Seeing the Punisher Iron Man outfit, I always love the look of that.
Yeah.
To see Frank get in a Punisher War Machine outfit and just go to town that'd be a lot of fun. If we could get Jon Bernthal, like, no helmet, just Punisher War Machine Iron Man suit would be incredible in Secret Wars. How else are you going to have Frank stand up to gods and everything else? You got to put him in armor, but he's Frank. I don't need no stinking helmet. I'm just going to take on everybody. Yeah. That would be the way I could see them put him in Secret Wars, and I would absolutely love to see that Punisher machine outfit on him.
Sure, yeah, and depending on what version of the comic of the comics you want to see from him, but he's very much kind of an overpowered, underestimated character in a lot of respects, because you have like the whole Punisher Kills the Marvel Universe series that was written too, where he's just going and taking out all the heroes and doing his thing there too. Like, he's very capable of that, depending on how you want to write him. So, we'll be on pins and needles waiting to see what the future of Frank Castle in the MCU is going to be outside of Brand New Day, because it's really the only thing we know that he's confirmed to be in. Yep. So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah. So the Punisher One Last Kill is a great special. This gets high praise for Jon Bernthal alone. He is just masterful as Frank Castle is playing the Punisher. He gets the darkness, the grittiness, the trauma, the heartache, the heartbreak, but also the rage and the violence and everything. He just portrays every aspect of this character perfectly. He is top tier cast as Frank Castle. We need to keep seeing him and stuff. I will take marks off because it does not feel that is connected to Born Again, where we last saw him as much, and it doesn't feel as a bridge gap or as much as you maybe hoped or wanted to see to Spider-Man Brand New Day. You got him going in the right direction, but none of that really says that direction is to Peter Parker. And, you know, that's at least my look at it, that it felt, it's supposed to be disconnected, but it felt really disconnected from anything. It really felt like a second to last episode of a Punisher series that we only got this episode and we're not going to get to see the rest of the season. I really want to see another Punisher season, but for this special, I'm going to give it an 8 for Jon Bernthal alone. The action sequences were fantastic. Jon is incredible as it. You've got to deal with all of his trauma. It's just really short. Should have been either a feature-length film or a full new season with this episode or this special contained as an episode. But it still gets high marks from just Jon Bernthal bringing that dark, gritty trauma of Frank to life and just getting to mow down an entire building of people.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of the points you make. I'm giving it a little bit higher. I'm giving it a 8.5 myself. I loved his performance in this. It felt very short, and that's going to knock off what I would knock off for it. It just felt like you could have gone a little further and a little deeper and made this a little bit longer to feel like more of a proper special for the Punisher than just like a quick one-hitter, like you said, that could have been in the middle of a season or towards the end of a season for an actual Punisher season. And to their credit, what scores high with me is it does leave us wanting to see Jon Bernthal more. Like, you finally do get him back looking like the Punisher that everybody wants to see. He's dealt with that trauma. I love the story that they told. I wish they would have let it linger a little bit more than what they did, because it did feel a little bit rushed by the time it was over. I was like, man, it didn't feel like I was watching this for 48, 50 minutes or whatever it wound up being without the credits. But man, it just speaks to the power of how well Jon Bernthal just embodies the spirit of Frank Castle in this. He's just perfect casting. And he does 99.9% of the heavy lifting in this special, as he should, but he just carries it so well that you just can't help but be enthralled in watching him in all of the ways that he just embodies this character. And this is a really good showcase for him and his abilities, and I really want to see more of that. It would score higher for me if it were a little bit longer, let it linger a little bit more, dive a little bit more into the mental health aspect of it, and really let him just go nuts and maybe have it end with him killing Manucci at the end. Still getting his comeuppance by then, even though she got away, but I don't know. It leaves us a little bit because you don't know how they're going to follow up on it, if there is a plan to follow up on it, because it does kind of leave it open-ended. So I'm going to knock it a little bit for that, but I'm excited to see him in Brand New Day. Even though you're not going to get the as dark and gritty of it, it's going to probably be a little bit more lighthearted. We don't know exactly how fully he's going to be involved in this story yet, so the jury's still out on that, but I really want to see Disney please give Jon Bernthal more opportunities to play Frank Castle, whatever that looks like creatively. I'm here for it, and I can't wait to see what they follow up.
I mean, Jon himself is 11 out of 10 in this. Like, he is just amazing. Fantastic, incredible, and I want to see him more. I think this would have scored probably a 9 from me if they would have taken 5 minutes at the beginning of just to show him breaking out of the cage in Daredevil Born Again, escaping out, and why he's away from everybody. Because he really, if you think about the Punisher character and everything else, he would have been staying there fighting with Matt against Fisk and everything else. So we don't know why he's not left to a different part of the city, and his trauma is hitting him hard right now. If they would have taken 5 minutes just to take him out of the cage and see why he escaped to that part of town and why his mental health and everything took a dip, where it was just something that caused it to go from maybe even just being in the cage or something, but from where we left it with Born Again to where it started, it didn't feel like it's how much time has passed in between. And it's supposed to be just that Born Again season 2 is how much time has passed in between. You don't feel like that's the same Frank that we left at Born Again. So if they would have just taken that 5 minutes, and I'm being a little nitpicky with his connection to Spider-Man, we just need him being Punisher to be in Spider-Man. But I think it's more about the beginning. You get him breaking out of the cage and you show why he's in a new part of town and why he's going after this family, in turn from Fisk to going after this family. and how his mental state has gone, it would have been so much better. And that's 5-10 minutes.
Sure.
That's all you really need at the beginning, is to really connect it to Born Again, where we last saw him, and set up where we're here. We're missing that setup.
Yeah, that's what I mean by letting it linger a little bit more, let it breathe a little bit more instead of shotgun blasting us with what they gave us. Like it still great, still loved it.
Yeah, they still gave us something great. It just needed that connection.
It could have been legendary status had it, taken a little bit more care to kind of connect to what we had seen and where we're going with it. So, we're excited for that. I love it. This is such a good one. I want to go back and watch it again for sure. Mm-hmm. It just give me more Frank. He's such a cool character already to begin with, but you combine that with the brilliant casting of Jon Bernthal, and you have something magical there that I really want to see them capitalize more on. But we'll see what they do with it.
Yeah, exactly. I just love that they kept. You can't really do this character without the dark and grittiness. So it is going to be interesting to see what they do with Brand New Day, because it is fun to see Jon Bernthal smiling and laughing and doing that stuff. But it's also the core heart of Punisher is trauma. It's just heartbreak and darkness, and they've handled it perfectly. Like, yeah, we had Thomas Jane, and we've had some other. You had Dolph Lundgren was the very first live action Punisher, which I think I've watched clips of it. I don't think I've ever watched his Punisher movie all the way through and stuff. And I think I only watched Thomas Jane's. I didn't watch the follow up because they replaced him and stuff, which I've heard decent things about it. But when Jon Bernthal took on Frank for Netflix, for coming into Daredevil, getting his own series for those 2 seasons, and now coming back for Born Again and the special, he just proved that he was made for this character. Like, this is the one, as we've said with Charlie Cox, with Matt Murdock, he's just perfect, absolute perfect casting, because he just has not only the incredible acting ability, but he can do the emotion and darkness and grittiness and rage, but also show you a softness and a heartache and a heartbreak. You've got to be able to get that, which I think they were missing from Thomas Jane's. You got into the darkness of, but you didn't feel that emotional weight. With Jon, you feel that emotional weight and then some.
Yeah, and that's just the powerful part of his performance. He's just an S-tier character, and we want to see more of him. But The Punisher: One Last Kill, it's on Disney Plus right now. Go check it out. Let us know what you think about it, because we had an absolute blast watching this, and it left us wanting more. But, that's just how these things go sometimes, and we're hoping to see them follow up on this character very soon.
So thank you so much for tuning in, and if you feel so inclined, do all the things to help the show out, from follows, shares, likes, and comments on social media, to subscribing on YouTube and your favorite audio platforms. All of it helps us out so much, and we can't thank you enough for all the support.
You can also become a subscriber over on Patreon to get each episode delivered to you early, exclusive merch items, and your name read out at the end of every episode. Check it out at patreon.com/we'll bring the popcorn.
That's going to do it for this episode, and we'll see you on the next one.